Jonathan Quick has broken the space-time continuum. He and Alexis Lafreniere lead the Rangers to a 1-0 blanking of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Will and should Jonathan Quick get more playing time going forward? We break it all down on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 947 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And so it's obviously Thanksgiving morning here, so a very special edition of Locked On New York Rangers. Big happy Thanksgiving to all of you who celebrate, wherever you might be in the world listening to this. But I think for us, and certainly the Ranger players as well, that turkey's going to taste just a little bit better today. Obviously, the Rangers going into Pittsburgh, bouncing back from a disappointing loss the game prior, and taking care of business against the Penguins. It wasn't easy. It was back and forth the entire way. We did our crossover with Locked On Penguins, and all three of us predicted a close game. I think I said 2-1 Rangers. Hunter said 4-3 Penguins, and I want to say Patrick said 3-2 Penguins, but it just kind of had that feel that, this is such a rivalry. These games are always so tightly contested between these two teams, and it just kind of had a feel that this is going to be a battle no matter which way it kind of unfolded and who ultimately got the 2 points. And, of course, the Rangers posting a 1-0 win. And I've talked about this in the past, but, I like a occasional 6-5, back and forth, just wild, crazy game of hockey, all kinds of highlight reel worthy goals and whatnot. But this is the kind of win, especially on the road and especially against a division rival. To me, this is about as gratifying, about as satisfying of a victory as it gets. The Rangers scored a goal about 5 minutes into this game, and that was it. The Rangers had to basically protect a 1-goal lead for 55 consecutive minutes. They never built on that lead, obviously, because they, of course, won 1-0, but they also never gave it away either. That, to me, all that together, everything I just mentioned there makes this a very impressive win, a very satisfying win, and yet another win that I think in a certain way is in contention for best victory of the season for the Rangers. But I can't go a second further without talking about Jonathan Quick, who continues to party like it's 2012. I tweeted out last night, and for those of you watching on YouTube right now, it's on the graphic here on this side over here, if I can point to it. Jonathan Quick has officially broken the space-time continuum. He just continues to go out there and play like he's in his prime. This guy is 37 years old. He's really struggled the past couple of seasons, but it seems like going to the Rangers, maybe a little change of scenery. I mean, I shouldn't even, I don't even want to toss that idea out there because, somebody who wins 2 Stanley Cups with the Kings, is not in need of a change of scenery, you wouldn't think. And, of course, he ends up on the Knights last year, gets a 3rd cup as a backup. But embracing and thriving in that backup role and stepping up big in a time where Igor Shesterkin was not available for a little bit more than 2 weeks for the Rangers. But, again, he ends up with a 32-save shutout. And to kind of just break down his night, I want to talk about some of his better saves in just a second here, but I did want to kind of start by going right to the big finish because there was an interesting situation at the end of this game. You had Blake Wheeler drawing a penalty against the Penguins. Basically, a little bit less than 3 minutes ago, I want to say 2:47 is the exact time when this occurred. But Blake Wheeler's got the puck on the left side in the neutral zone. He goes to his right while gaining the blue line. So he's kind of at the center of the ice at this point. And then he gets tripped by Carlson. Carlson takes him down. The penalty is called. And Wheeler, while he's falling, is also trying to pass it to Mika Zibanejad. But as a quick aside here, Carlson was kind of whining about the penalty called against him. The nerve of any player on the Penguins to complain about the officiating at this point in the game after some of the penalties that were called against the Rangers, cut me a break, okay? The one, I mean, they weren't all bad. The Penguins had 5 power play opportunities, went 0 for 5. Great job by the Ranger penalty killers, and we'll talk about that later too. But the one that really stood out is the tripping penalty that was called against Barclay Goodrow when I forget who it was, but somebody was just breaking toward the net and kind of dove to try to get to the puck. And it was called a trip, and Barclay Goodrow had to go off. And I think that was the Penguins' basically 2nd consecutive power play, but the Ranger PK was obviously up to the challenge all night. But getting back to the final few minutes here. So you get the penalty. Wheeler draws the penalty, and kudos to him for doing that. Now the Rangers have a power play up by a goal with 2:47 to go. And I always feel like this is kind of like an awkward situation for a team on the power play that's leading by a goal very late in the game because, the team that's shorthanded, yes, they're down a man, but they have to continue to be aggressive because they're running out of time. So you're not going to be going up against a typical penalty kill like game plan if you're the Rangers or whichever team is on the man advantage here. They're going to be playing a lot differently than they normally would be while shorthanded. In this case being the Penguins. So there's that, and there's also the fact that the Rangers, you're up by a goal, so you want to take a chance if it's there, but by that same token, you want to try to take care of the puck as well. And you don't want to shoot wide of the net and spring a breakaway the other way, an odd man rush or whatever it might be. So if you're the Rangers, you're on the power play, you're trying to protect a 1-goal lead, and it's getting as late as it was here. You're kind of almost just trying not to make a mistake, which in some ways is not the best way to play. You can almost get a little too conservative. And again, just kind of an odd situation whenever this happens, when you've got a team leading very late in the game, gets on the power play. You want to possess the puck and everything, but you don't want to play everything too safe. The one thing they did here, which I liked, is they started the power play with K'Andre Miller out there instead of Vincent Trocheck. Other than that, it was the same guys you would expect. But having two defensemen, in this case, Gustafsson and Miller, smart way to play it. You don't want to, let the Penguins take advantage of the fact that you've only got one defenseman on the ice. So I did like that. But the Penguins got a couple of chances, even while shorthanded. There were two consecutive opportunities, and there's Jonathan Quick. He makes the initial save. The puck popped into the air, and it's right there in the crease, but K'Andre Miller swatted it away right out of midair, knocked it out of there. Then you had a situation where the Rangers got it back into Pittsburgh zone, and Pittsburgh, I think what they were trying to do is shoot it down the ice because obviously they can do that. They're shorthanded, and then try to just skate in there and go get it. But they shot it down, and Trouba had the puck behind the Ranger net, and he just chilled there. And it's really smart because, he doesn't have to go anywhere. He doesn't really have to do anything. And sooner or later, somebody on the Penguins, they're shorthanded, so they might not want to do this, but somebody's going to have to go get him and try to put some pressure on and at least make him make a play with the puck. Trouba actually did this twice during this shift. So a smart play. He waited until a Penguin approached him. Then he passed it out of there, and the Rangers got it out of the zone. So they played this pretty well, save for those opportunities that I just talked about. But then the power play ends with 41 seconds to go in it, or 41 seconds to go in the game. The Rangers have it in the Penguin zone, and props to Nick Bonino and Barclay Goodrow here. They were in deep in the Penguin zone, in the corner behind the Penguins net. They would not give away the puck. Goodrow was really sticking his nose in there and really mixing it up with the Penguins. Bonino's taking a beating. He's got the puck in the corner, and he won't give it up. He won't let the Penguins dig it out. So they were basically bleeding the clock there. Great job by those two during this sequence here. Then they get, the Penguins, that is, they get one more really good scoring opportunity. Malkin found Crosby open kind of out of nowhere. It looked like a blind pass almost, or maybe Crosby was calling for the puck. I'm not sure. But you got K'Andre Miller sliding across the ice to try to block the shot, and then Quick fights it off with his right shoulder, off his shoulder, and out of play with 11 seconds to go. Trocheck lost the ensuing faceoff to Crosby, but then you had Letang trying to make a pass, and Mika blocked it and cleared to the neutral zone. So that ran it out. Awesome job all around by this team, especially Jonathan Quick. Once again, a 32-save shutout, making big saves and big spots pretty much the entire night. Penguins going 0 for 5 on the power play. And cliche or not, you need your goalie to be your best penalty killer. And anytime the Penguins did get an opportunity on the man advantage, Quick was obviously up to the task. So, to highlight a couple more saves by Quick here, because we might as well do that. Earlier in the third period, the first minute of the third period, and I put a star by this one, you had Gensel passing to his left to Crosby. And again, Quick with a great job sliding over, full extension, left skate save to deny Crosby on the doorstep. And that's another thing. All of the Penguins star players, Quick got all of them at least once. He robbed Crosby on this occasion. He robbed Crosby at the end of the game. He robbed Gensel at least once. He got Malkin once or twice too. There was a turnover by Trouba that led to a slap shot from Malkin, and Quick fought that off and knocked it up into the netting, I believe is what happened. He made the save one way or the other. But yeah, Quick making great saves and doing so against the Penguins' best players. So that's obviously awesome to see. You also had earlier in the game, first couple of minutes, the Penguins got a good push right off the opening faceoff. One of the few games I can really remember this season where the Rangers were back on their heels a little bit at the start. But, you got Quick making a sliding save to his left. The net was open, but the Rangers kept it out. Specifically, Mika Zibanejad made a play where it forced the Penguins to put the puck just a little bit wide of the net. We could go on and on about this. I could do a separate episode of this game and just call it Jonathan Quick's best 10 saves of the night. But we've obviously given him his due here. And again, just cannot say enough about the job that he's doing. In just a second, though, we're actually going to continue to talk about Jonathan Quick a little bit. I saw, a couple people maybe floating the idea that Jonathan Quick should be getting a little bit more starting time. And we'll discuss that concept in just a minute here. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by BetterHelp. This time of year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness and or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and to give you the tools to manage everything that's going on in your life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We also want to mention Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And so, we'll go ahead and keep everything rolling here for you guys. Once again, thank you as always for tuning in. For the everydayers, you guys will want to stick around. Basically, here's how we're going to do it. The Rangers play on Friday at 1 p.m. They play on Saturday at 1 p.m. So we're going to come back here probably Sunday morning, Saturday night, one or the other. We'll do a new episode, and we'll talk about mostly the Saturday game against the Bruins. We'll talk a little bit about the Friday game against the Flyers, but obviously the Bruins game will be, the one fresh in everybody's mind and all the talking points coming out of that game. So definitely looking forward to that. I also want to continue talking about Jonathan Quick for a minute here because I've seen people floating the idea on social media, of maybe Jonathan Quick starting to get a couple of more starts and, could there be a discussion to be had here? And actually I tweeted something at the end of the game. It's the same thing I said right at the start of this episode, that Jonathan Quick has broken the space-time continuum because he was really down. His numbers were down the last couple of years, and obviously it feels like he's found the fountain of youth or just the best goaltending coach in the world. I got to believe Benoit Allaire has at least something to do with this. But, in response to my tweet, we had Jason tweeting this out, responding to me. He needs to be, he's talking about Jonathan Quick here. He needs to be number one, a few more 3+ goals by Igor, and it will become a discussion. Yeah, I appreciate, the thought process here. And obviously you're recognizing the fact that Jonathan Quick is playing very well. And when players play well, they deserve to be rewarded with more playing time. As far as a goalie controversy, though, no, it's not going to happen. It's not even close to, I think, being a discussion. Igor's still the guy. You're talking about somebody who's been an elite goalie ever since he came into the league, a Vezina winner. Somebody that has at least one deep playoff run not too long ago and was obviously a huge part of that. What could happen, though, I will concede this. It's possible that Jonathan Quick begins to see a few more starts than we probably would have, expected him to get coming into this season. Jonathan Quick, a veteran goalie, and coming in, clearly to take a backseat to Igor Shesterkin. We thought we'd only see him every now and again. It took a long time for Quick to get into a game this season. I believe his first start was 5 games in because, he came in relief of Igor in the 4th game, that game against the Predators where nobody played well for the Rangers. But Quick finally got a start there, 5th game of the season, and is undefeated as a starter. He lost one in overtime, but undefeated in regulation. We could start to see Quick more. And I think for sure we're going to see him at some point, either on Friday or on Saturday. Friday, it's a back-to-back, so a lot of times you would just do that anyway, get each goalie one of the games. But on Friday, the Rangers are against the Flyers, and on Saturday, they're against the Bruins. Off the top of my head, just kind of first reaction thinking about this, I would think Igor would probably be back out there on Friday, and then you go with Quick on Saturday. But we'll see how the Rangers look to play it. But I would be surprised if Quick doesn't get at least one of those 2 games. And, getting back to the point that Jason made here and a point that a couple of other people are making, the idea that, there could be a discussion to be had here. Again, there's not going to be a real discussion as far as who's going to be the starting goalie. Like imagine like coming down the stretch this season in the spring, getting into the playoffs. It's going to be Igor at that point, obviously assuming that he's healthy. But there have been instances in the past, whether it's the Rangers or other teams, where a backup goalie gets hot, and as a coaching staff, I think you owe it to yourself and to your team to ride that hot hand at least a little bit. And we've actually seen a couple of examples with this with the Rangers. We saw this as recently as just last season because there was a stretch where Igor was scuffling a little bit. He just didn't have his A game. And Halak, after, a tough start to the season, Yaroslav Halak, he kind of found his game a little bit and started to play really, really well. And at that time, we saw Halak, start to cut into Igor's playing time a little bit. Igor was still getting more starts than Halak, but we were seeing Halak maybe a little bit more often than I think a lot of us were expecting. And if you want to go back about, I don't know, this is probably like 8 years, give or take, there was a situation where even Henrik Lundqvist for a while had to take a little bit of a backseat to his backup goalie. It was Antti Raanta. And, when Raanta comes over, you're thinking like, okay, this is just the next backup goalie for the Rangers. And no disrespect to Raanta, but kind of an unheralded pickup. He'd only played 2 seasons in the NHL with the Blackhawks. And, okay, he'll back up Igor and, hopefully he gives us a chance. Raanta, by the way, for his career, very underrated goalie. I know he gets hurt every now and then, but when he's out there, he's usually giving his team a chance. But in this season, Lundqvist, rather, suffered an injury. He was out of the lineup for a little while, kind of like what happened with Igor here. And when Raanta had to go in and play, obviously, a lot while Henrik was out, he played just lights out, phenomenal hockey. And even when Henrik came back, they were kind of going with Raanta a little bit because he was so unbelievable. I mean, he had a stretch there where in like 4 games, he allowed like 3 goals or something along those lines. And even Lundqvist understood. He said like, yeah, right now, I mean, if I was the coach, I'd play that guy too. That was kind of his attitude toward it. And, eventually Raanta came back down to earth a little bit, and Henrik Lundqvist is Henrik Lundqvist, and it was obviously his neck going forward. Something like that could happen right now. Quick is hot right now. I believe he has the best goals against average in hockey, and obviously he has not played in as many games as a lot of other goalies, but that's still very impressive. He's played enough where you could be impressed by that stat. So, yes, Quick has been awesome. And I do think you'll see a little bit of an uptick as far as how many games he starts. But as far as a goalie controversy, no, not happening, not going to happen. It would require I'm going back and forth between Shesterkin and Lundqvist here. It would require Shesterkin to play so poorly for so long, and he's not even playing poorly. That's the other thing. And it would require Jonathan Quick to continue doing this for pretty much the entire season before I think a debate can even be had. Quick has been awesome, take nothing away, but it's not like Igor has played poorly. You look at what he did before he got injured. He played 8 games. He started 8 games before the injury. In 5 of those games, he allowed 2 or fewer goals. That doesn't sound like somebody that's a liability or is holding the team back or anything along those lines. And even just watching him, there were a lot of games that he played in where he was outstanding. He was, vintage Igor Shesterkin and got the job done and led the Rangers to a win. I mean, Igor right now, 7-3, 260 goals against average, 908 save percentage. That's kind of pedestrian for Igor. But again, it's not like this car crash disaster kind of thing where, oh man, we got to sit him down. So, again, I think Quick has certainly earned a little bit more playing time here. But as far as a goalie controversy, no, that's not going to happen. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Alexis Lafreniere, but we'll actually save that for just a minute from now. Right now, I want to go ahead and let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront so you know you're getting a great deal without all the hidden fees. Buy tickets in 2 seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute ticket, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, and we just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. The show is free and available on all platforms. So Alexis Lafreniere, obviously, this again is the best hockey that we've seen him play. And just when you think that maybe he's starting to cool off a little bit because he wasn't very noticeable in the game against the Devils, and then the most recent game against the Stars, it just kind of got away from the Rangers a little bit, but held off the score sheet in both of those. But coming through here with what turned out to be the only goal of the game, a breakaway goal. And we got to break this one down because what a goal this was. Excellent play by Mika Zibanejad as well. But the Rangers were back on their heels the first 3 or 4 minutes of this game. Big push by the Penguins. Rangers seemed to find their game pretty quickly thereafter. And then the Penguins, they got the puck in their own zone. Seems like a pretty simple outlet pass into the neutral zone. But Mika Zibanejad swoops over. He intercepts the pass along the boards and kind of near the red line. Mika starts to move forward a little bit, but then he sees Alexis Lafreniere to his left. And Lafreniere is hitting the Jets. So Mika slides, a really short pass to his left to Lafreniere. Lafreniere takes it in stride and moves forward, zips past a defender. That's another thing about Lafreniere, man. His skating, he looks more explosive this year. His skating looks better. His puck handling's been very good as well. But he shoots past the defenseman here. He's on a breakaway, goes to the backhand, puts it into the net, kind of lifts it into the net and scores. It was very similar. I'm sure I'm not the only person that thought of this, but it was very similar to his shootout winner that he had a little bit earlier this season. It was basically the same move. But among his many improvements, I think Lafreniere just looks more explosive, more decisive, and just better skater overall. And, again, this goes back to what I talked about earlier, but the fact that the Rangers had a 1-goal lead for 55 minutes, never increased it, but never gave it away either. That's big-time hockey right there. And it's even more so, again, on the road against a rival. Just a very impressive win. And Alexis Lafreniere, he came close to scoring some other times in this game because, once again, that Panarin line was the best line on the ice for the Rangers. The two of them look so dangerous every time they rush into the zone. You really are getting to the point where you think it's going to be a goal. And for Lafreniere specifically, for a while, the last couple of seasons, he could get hot every now and then, but, very inconsistent was Lafreniere. And for a while there, you almost got to a point where you're kind of like surprised whenever he would score. Now that this is where it's changed. He's looking like the first overall pick. And when he goes in on a breakaway here against even a quality goalie, you now feel that like he's got a good chance to score. You'd almost be surprised if he didn't put this one away. So that's kind of the difference right now as far as Lafreniere. It's not even really a surprise when he's doing good things out there. Obviously playing with Panarin helps, but Lafreniere more than holding his own this season as well. I also wanted to, now that we talked about Lafreniere, shift our attention to some of the unsung heroes in this game. And I think one of them is for sure Mika Zibanejad. Now, obviously, we just talked about the play that he made there to set up the Lafreniere goal. An excellent play there. But he was making plays like this all night. He was intercepting passes, playing very well defensively. The Penguins went 0 for 5 on the power play. Mika Zibanejad obviously had a hand in that. He was out there for a lot of the time that the Penguins had the man advantage. Broke up some passes. He also went 12 and 9 on the faceoff circle. And keep in mind, the Rangers they came into this game as the second best faceoff team in the NHL, but the Penguins were number 1. And also keep in mind, Mika has to face Sidney Crosby on the faceoff circle quite a bit as well. And we know how good he is on faceoffs. And, I think Crosby had a good night on the faceoff. He was at like 58% or something. But the fact that Mika at least held his own going up against, one of the best, that's very impressive as well. And Mika also, he was a workhorse. He was out there for 20 minutes, 45 seconds. That was the second most among Ranger forwards, only to Vincent Trocheck. Just very noticeable defensively. And also, we talked about this earlier too, but made that final play at the end of the game. He lost the faceoff, but then he basically took the puck away from Letang, dumped it out of the Ranger zone, and that was the end of the game. So just a great job by Mika. He ends up with 4 shots on goal, 1 hit, 1 block shot. And there's something to be said, I think, also for somebody who is slumping a little bit offensively, as Mika has, especially 5v5, but they're not letting it impact the other aspects of their game. Mika has played well defensively this season. Again, the Ranger penalty kill has been very good. He's got a huge hand in that. He's winning faceoffs. He's gotten better at that over the years. And, breaking up passes and just playing good defensive hockey. He looks really dialed in out there. And, obviously that continued in this game. And they needed it because, again, it's a very low-scoring game. You have to protect a 1-goal lead for 55 minutes. You need guys playing well defensively. I also got to give a big shout out to Nick Bonino. He was somebody, we did our crossover with Locked On Penguins. He was somebody that I thought was kind of an under-the-radar player to watch in this game. And what a game he had. 3 shots on goal. That's not as important as the other things he was doing, but we'll throw it out there. 4 block shots for Bonino, and he actually only went 5 and 8 on the faceoff circle. But again, the Penguins are the best faceoff team in hockey, so we'll give Bonino a little bit of a break there. But Bonino was all over the place. He was huge on the penalty kill. And something else that I mentioned earlier this season, and I'll repeat it here talking about Bonino, it feels like he just has a really high hockey IQ. He's a veteran player through and through. I feel like when the Rangers got him, there maybe were some Ranger fans that were like, "Oh man, Nick Bonino, the guy from the Penguins, he's older now, he's 35, he's this, he's that." I get it. He's not a superstar, and he used to play for the rival. But as I said at the time, Nick Bonino, as far as Penguins go on those championship teams, I disliked him a lot less than a lot of the other players on the Penguins. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but just a hard-nosed, smart player. He's always in great position out there. And again, it feels like he knows what the opposition is going to do before the opposition knows what they're going to do with the puck. His anticipation is off the charts. He's always in great position. He broke up a lot of passes in this game as well. Got some timely clears while the Rangers were shorthanded. Cannot say enough about what Nick Bonino did in this game. And again, I believe right now he leads all forwards in the NHL in block shots, and you can add another 4 from this game as well. And again, a lot of them came shorthanded. All those blocked shots, man, one of them maybe results in a goal. You never know. Or maybe it's not a goal, but maybe the save is made and the Penguins bury the rebound. You never know. That's why blocked shots are so valuable and so important. And it's just awesome to see Nick Bonino going out there playing hard-nosed hockey. We talked about what him and Barclay Goodrow did at the end of this game as well, grinding down the clock. Just somebody you want on the ice, whenever the game is on the line and you're up by a goal. And certainly you want him out there for penalty kills as well. So a couple other unsung heroes from this game. Let's throw out Zach Jones and Braden Schneider. I thought the two of them played very, very well against the Devils. A hard-charging Devils attack. They each had an assist. They both were on the positive side of the plus-minus and just played well. Just solid, steady hockey, which is what you want from your third pairing. In this game against the Penguins, they were very good after, kind of a rough game against the Stars. They were both a +1 because they were out there when the only goal was scored. 2 hits for Schneider, 1 shot on goal for Schneider. And then Zach Jones, besides being a +1, didn't have any official stats. But for the most part, they held up really well. The Penguins were home, so they have last change. And I feel like they were really targeting this pairing for the Rangers. And that's not really unique to the Rangers. I think a lot of times when a team has final shift, they want to put some of their best players out there, specifically when the third pairing is out there. It just kind of stands to reason that they're going to have more of an opportunity to score. But despite having to be out there against the Crosby line quite often in this game, they held up. Crosby, he's always going to get some chances. That line's always going to get some chances. But for the most part, I thought they played well. They were even out there for a little while during a 4-on-4 against the Crosby line, which is even more of a task, but they were up to it. A couple times in this game as well where, Zach Jones, he's in front of the Ranger net, and the Penguins are getting close, and he would make a play on the puck and get it out of there before, they could score a dirty goal. So good stuff all around from that pairing. They've been a little bit up and down. I think recently, the Stars game notwithstanding, recently this pairing has definitely played better and has definitely improved. And, again, third pairing, you kind of just don't want them to be a liability. You want them to just go out there, play steady, consistent hockey. And I think for the most part, recently, that's what we're getting from this pairing. So I figured we could pretty much call it there. Definitely enjoy. Hopefully everybody's off today and enjoying time with friends, family, whatever it might be. And again, hopefully that turkey tastes a little bit better for everybody, after seeing this Ranger win. But yeah, I figure we can call it there. Rangers back in action Friday at Philly, Saturday against Boston. Definitely looking forward to that. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.